want your soul.
I sat down in my chair and flicked to a news sheet on the clipboard. These days, most therapists use tablets. Sometimes I think I do things just to be contrarian. I'm not sure. The clients don't mind, though. They don't even notice. In fact, it's exactly what they expect to see, and I wonder if that's why I do it. The current guy doesn't seem to notice, nor did the last one. I forget his name. It begins with a K, though. I had to spend the last 45 minutes carefully wording any questions to avoid bringing it up. It was awkward, distracted me from his problems. He's a flasher, or at least he was. He's terrified of women. I can't see it in the way he looks at me. If I laughed at him too harshly, I think there's a very serious risk he'd probably kill me. Good thing he isn't very funny. But where did this guy come from? The current one. I don't remember booking him, but Tracy wouldn't let any random in. Was it that guy with the addiction problem? Oh Christ, it's the name all over again. I'll have to tread carefully. Well, why don't we start with a little introduction, I say, fiddling with my pen. Start off by telling me a little bit about yourself. I always assume I'm the only one who daydreams during long silences. This guy looks like he's been thinking too, though. Would he have just stayed silent the whole session? That's a strange thought, but he's looking at me quite happily. I don't normally see people with a peaceful glint in their eyes. Is everything okay, I ask? Do you feel comfortable? Yeah, I'm very comfortable, he answers. God, he doesn't sound anything like I thought he would. That voice should be on radio, or more likely on some government tape, ready to broadcast on BBC for when the world finally ends. Yeah, I think that seems like a better foot. That's a voice I can imagine professionally explaining to me to keep calm and drown the children to spare them the horror. It's pretty detached. He sounds like an alien, and he looks like one too. If I've ever seen one wearing a human skin suit, it's this guy. Oh shit, he's talking now. Yeah, the move has been difficult for me. I think you could call it a culture clash, he said. Oh, so you feel alienated? I asked. Well, I feel lonely, he answers and makes eye contact. Probably not autism. In fact, for someone meeting a stranger, he's almost so relaxed he's stoned. Probably not social anxiety then either. It's common to feel lonely after a recent move. Where did you come from? I asked. Well, I used to live at the bottom of the ocean. He smiled. Oh, that's funny. He thinks he's being funny now. Care to elaborate? I ask. No, not really. He shakes his head. Does it really matter where I'm from? You are all so obsessed with knowing things. Well, when you say you, are you referring to women, or are you referring to psychiatrists? No, he shakes his head and suppresses an eye roll. Humans, he replies. All of you humans are obsessed with questions and answers. It's like, imagine a cockroach interrogating you over your mortgage. It's just like, he shrugs and then laughs, and so do I. It's the image. It's just stupid enough to work its magic, even as another part of my mind mutters an aside. He reminds me of a narcissist, I thought. You feel like you need to explain yourself then, do you? I said. No, He laughs, and this time I don't join him. You feel like people ask you to explain yourself then, I said. Well, I feel bored, he says, before sitting upright, and I instinctively move backwards. My heart flutters a bit. I nearly laugh at my own fear. Why did I back away? Did I think he was going to lunge? Jesus, I feel like I'm at a zoo and all the bars have disappeared. Very bored and very lonely, he adds. Well, he hasn't given me much to work with here. I'm telling you, it's so fucking annoying being a psychiatrist. You get these people to come in here and they act like they don't want to talk. What the fuck are you doing here? I mean, I'm pretty good at spinning nothing into something, but for crying out loud, like, answer the questions. You're on an appointment, dude. So, why do you think seeing me or a therapist might help? Oh, I didn't want to see a therapist. Oh, okay, I say and gesture with my arms at the room around me. I'm getting a little irritated now. Is it showing? I hate these games. Well, you're seeing one right now, I tell him. Why come here otherwise? Well, I didn't want to see a therapist, he repeats himself. I wanted to see you. Oh, okay. I try to think of something funny to say almost as a reflex, but I don't think this is a good time to start laughing, nervously or otherwise. I need to keep my composure. This is fucking weird now. Well, why's that? I ask, finding it the only words to leave my mouth. Well, because I'm bored and lonely. I said that already. He says it like it's the most natural conclusion possible. You wanted a therapist to kill time, I say. No, he shakes his head. He isn't just odd looking, is he? No, I must have missed it somehow. He's actually quite unpleasant. That skin on his head looks fake, uncanny almost. Something about him seems very off. He reminds me of a puppet or a mannequin. No, he repeats again. I was bored and lonely, and I saw you in the street, and I followed you here. That girl outside didn't want me to come in. She said you had a patient, so I thought I'd be polite and wait. Then one man left the room, and I tried to enter. That's when the girl told me I needed an appointment. And then another man beside me told me I had to wait my turn. He grabbed my arm, and after that, suddenly things became a little less boring. See, I was right, wasn't I? I followed you and I hadn't even spoke to you yet, but in less than a few hours I found 2 people. He's smiling now like he's proven a point. Found them for what? I asked. My heart is in my chest now. I shouldn't have even been joking around with him. Had I missed something? Some noise? God, I hope Tracy's okay out there. There's a panic button under her desk and I hope to hell she'll hit it. I found 2 friends. His smile is so wide now it's starting to redden at the edges. Is his skin going to break? I think he actually might be. What is this guy? I'm not bored or lonely anymore, though. Both the man and the girl were exhilarating, but especially the girl. She was a delight, he said out loud. Did he just pat his stomach? Why did he do that? I need you to leave, I stutter, and I'm not laughing now, am I? I'm waiting and watching him like a sparrow facing down a tomcat. He purses his lips, his whole face snapping back to normal like a rubber band. And then he considers my question. Did he just tilt his head? I think he did. Jesus, he moves like a fucking animal. Okay, he says, and he nods. I don't normally do this, but what the hell, you only live once, he says. But the way he said it, he emphasized the you. I don't like that. My head feels light, but I can't let go of all sense now. I have to stay here stone-faced and watch him leave. I'm a psychiatrist for crying out loud, and there needs to be some boundary setting. This is very odd behavior. And I have to stay stone-faced because something otherwise might happen. He needs to know that I'm not fucking around. I don't know what to do, but I have this terrible deep feeling in my stomach that I am alone with this man. There's no patient out there, nor is there Tracy. I just get the sense that they're gone. Dead, perhaps? I don't know. But if I screamed right now, the only one who could come barreling towards me is him. Please don't return. I manage to muster the words just as he leaves. I immediately regret it because he looks back and smirks, and for a split second, I really do think he's going to come at me. Why did he just pat his stomach? But he just opens the door and leaves. He doesn't even shut it, and for a moment I'm telling myself to stand and call out to Tracy, but instead, I open my mouth and feel the tears come down my face. I sob. I sob so hard my whole body is shaking and I curl my knees up to my chest. I'm not quiet. I desperately want someone to come into my office. And then, I think I hear the elevator ding. Is he left? Please come in, Tracy. Please don't leave me alone in here. The longer I sit there while nothing happens, the more I start to accept the nightmarish feeling deep in my stomach. Something is wrong. Tracy isn't coming. And that's when I hear the flies. There are only 1 or 2, but their buzzing is as clear as day. Fresh meat. The words pop into my mind like a neon sign in total darkness. It's those flies, those big fat blue bottle flies whose meaty buzzing reverberates through my head like microphone feedback. They're attracted to something. They want something. I can't take it anymore. I need to go look. I take a moment to catch my breath. I don't want to leave my chair, but I make myself get up anyway. This is a hard job, talking to mental fucking morons all day long, but I need to get my wits about me. I need to get my energy up. I approach the door with a tentative greeting, hoping to hell that Tracy will answer, but she doesn't, and I step into the reception area and finally see that what's left of my receptionist is still at her desk, hands calmly on the keyboard. I recognize the acrylic nails painted red. The color matches the gory stubs of her wrists. I can't help but wonder where the rest of her is gone, and why the only sign of my next patient is a greasy stain on the carpet and something hanging from a light bulb. I've spent all day answering questions. Normally I'm the one asking. Isn't it ironic? I always thought I had a good command of irony, but right now my mind is dust. I think the policeman driving me home had tried speaking to me once or twice, but I can't bring myself to reply. I don't like being this close to a stranger. I can smell the dampness of his clothes and hair, and I only ride in other people's cars when something is wrong. He drives a different route to reach my house, and when we arrive, it takes me a moment to recognize the building from such a different angle. My car isn't in the driveway. This is the house my neighbors must glimpse during the day, the building I leave behind each morning. Are the walls always that high? It looks so big now, and there's something else, something different about it. This isn't the same exact house I return to each night. My bedroom light is on. Anyone home? The policeman asks. He tries to sound calm, but I can detect an undercurrent of tension in his voice. He noticed the lights as well. Well, there shouldn't be, I say. Can you go take a look? Of course, he answers with a smile. That crooked English nose of his makes me think of a postman. I don't know why, it just does. I'll be back in a second, ma'am, he says. He's trying to seem calm, but just before he steps onto the welcome mat, he checks his shoelaces, briefly adjusts his helmet, and his hands fall to the baton and radio on his belt in one smooth sweep. Am I being paranoid right now? When he knocks on the door, I decide that yes, I am. I hastily undo my seatbelt and leave the car. When I start to run, I know he hears my footfalls because he looks back. And for the briefest moment, he's afraid. But then the fear slips away and he's pleased to see me. I realize that I'm holding my keys out to him. How else was he meant to go inside? He takes them and quickly unlocks the door. He goes first and I follow soon after. My house looks oddly empty. I'm not sure how to explain it except that it feels as if the rain is trying and failing to keep the silence at bay. Just a storm, I tell myself. To help the sullen mood, I turn the lights on while the policeman looks around. Before I reach the last switch, he's already in the kitchen and then the living room. And when he comes back, I say nothing when he looks at the staircase, and neither does he. We just smile at each other before he sets off, while I linger patiently at the foot of the stairs. The sun hasn't yet set, but God, it's dark in here. The top of the stairs is barely visible. It looks like a hole. I'm safe, though, I tell myself. There's a muffled bang, and then I jump. Probably just something falling over, I think. Time stretches on. When I look back towards my living room, I see that the sun has continued to set, and now my opaque windows are catching the shadows of nearby trees. The way they lie across the film-coated glass makes them look like strange hands clamoring to get in. He was so quick moving through the ground floor. What is he doing up there? Why is this taking so long? I hate the fear and anxiety that I have. It physically hurts. This is why people go into scary murder basements and call out to the dark. In the real world, it's always a toppled wheelie bin or a winged bird that's making those strange sounds. It's only in the movies that Michael Myers slips out of the shadows. It really has been too long now. I want to cry out and ask if he's okay. Shouldn't I at least hear him shuffle about? There are only 3 rooms upstairs. It doesn't make sense. I should go up there. I should take the first step because in real life there is no murder basement filled with monsters. And right here, right now, that's my upstairs floor. It's just a place. It's where I'm going to sleep tonight, where I drink wine and watch Netflix and maybe half-heartedly browse Tinder. There's a sound, something from the kitchen. It's a gentle rumble like the pipes when I run the tap, except that can't be the case, although sometimes I hear that sound if I run the bath and pop downstairs to grab a bottle of wine. That must be what it is. Someone's running a bath. Oh, how nice of him, that cop. Getting me a bath ready. He must know that I've had a long day. But wait a fucking minute. I should leave. I've done the math. Something is definitely wrong. Why would a cop be running my bath? And for some reason, right now is the moment my legs decide to work. I climb the first step and I feel something welling up inside me. It's anger at being scared. Whatever's up there, I need to prove it doesn't exist. This afternoon was a one-off, a kook, a nut. Nothing to worry about, nothing supernatural here. But deep down I hear a voice screaming over and over. Leave. Things are not adding up. I reach the top of the stairs. I can hear water running clearly now. Someone is running a bath. Wait, why would I think that? Why would anybody up here, including the officer, be running me a bath? It doesn't make sense. I push the bedroom door open and am greeted with the prone form of the policeman. He's lying completely still, naked and pale like a chicken in the supermarket. He looks almost peaceful, arms by his side, and next to him are his clothes, all neatly folded. At the back of the room I can hear someone in the bathroom. Their humming and the cadence of their voice is sickeningly familiar. I need to get out of this house now. There's still time. There's a door, slightly ajar, but I don't think I've been spotted yet. The door then swings open and I freeze. I try to scream, but all that comes out is a brittle hiss. Even my throat has seized up. It's him. Oh my God, it's him. He's in my fucking house now. Hey there. I've run you a bath, he says, gesturing to the room behind him. For some reason I respond. Oh, okay. I think I nodded, in acceptance, but I might be just shaking from terror. I want to mention the policeman, but I can't acknowledge it because what if that's what sends the madness all crashing down? Come here, he says, and I obey. Holy shit, why? Doesn't he seem polite? I don't know what he wants, do I? All that matters right now is surviving because each time I look at the man on the floor, the more his death registers in my mind. There's a fucking dead cop laying on my floor. Half hour ago, he was a real live human being, but now he's just cold cuts in the waiting. Now he's just a dead thing. I really don't want to die. I reach the man, but he doesn't touch me. He just gives the door a little push and it swings open all the way, revealing the tub still running. Go on, he says. Enjoy. He wants me to get in. I step forward and dip my fingers into the water, just to see if it's real. It's not only real, it's scalding, and I cry out involuntarily. The sound of my own voice makes me feel like I've dropped a stack of plates right next to a hibernating bear, but he just tilts his head like a dog. It takes a second for me to realize that he wants an explanation now. It's really hot. It's too hot, I say, and from the sound of my own voice I must be crying. He shrugs as if to say, how am I meant to know? Then reaches into the tub to undo the plug while turning on the cold tap. He stays there staring at the water, his back turned towards me. Is this the moment I should run? Is running even an option still? Well, I think it's okay now, he says, and my heart breaks at the missed opportunity. If only I wasn't so paralyzed with terror, I might have had a chance of fleeing. But there's that voice again. Don't turn your back on him. He wants me to check the water again. It means I'm getting closer. Oh God, no, please no, I don't want to. He looks wrong, weird. His eyes and face and mouth look unhuman. It'd be better if it really was Michael Myers. Underneath that mask was just a man, an actor. But underneath that face is something completely different. I try not to look at him when I touch the water. It's cooler now, not ideal, but good enough, I suppose. He wants me to get in. The thought sweeps over me like a panic. Oh my God, he wants me to get naked and climb in. I'm here and I'm all alone, and he wants me to have a bath? Why? Why would he want that? He's staring at me and waiting. Is this his preparation? Is he going to rape me? Or is he going to kill me? Preparation for what? What am I meant to do? He doesn't speak again, but he does gesture to the tub with the faintest hint of irritation, and I find it terrifying to behold. He's not a human. There's no way. He's an animal, a thing. What will he do if I make him angry? Tracy made him angry, and all that was left was her two disembodied hands and a stain. I can't let that happen. I start to unbutton my blouse. He does not look at me hungrily, but with great curiosity. This is wrong. This feels really wrong. Even as I strip away my tights and hesitate before pulling down my underwear, I realize this isn't maybe what I think it is. Something's missing, and somehow that scares me even more, even if he was drooling at the sight of my naked body. There they go, dropping to the floor past my ankles. I step out of them and use the momentum of my feet to keep going. If I stop, I may pass out and never return. I take extra care when getting in the bath. I don't want to slip or struggle or even pause. I don't want to give him an excuse to touch me. This whole time he's just looked. He hasn't savored, I think. He's just looked at me like a dog watching traffic. Good, he says once I'm settled in. I'm breathing so heavily now, the water ripples with each exhalation. It's a fight to keep the sobs bottled up. While you have a bath, he adds, I'm going to eat, and after that you can join me. Does that make sense to you? He says. I nod. He nods too. Then he steps out of the room, turning the lights off as he goes. I'm left in the dark, only the gray light of my bedroom, filtering through a slight gap in the door while I curl my knees up towards my chest and watch tears run into the water. For a moment I consider actually washing myself, but then I hear it. It sounds like wood splintering followed by a wet, pulsing gurgle. Oh Jesus, that sound. I know what that sound is. It's awful. I can hear what he's doing and I think I'm going insane. That's why he patted his stomach. He's groaning while he eats. He's groaning, and this time, it's really like a sexual release. He's cracking and snapping and tearing and gagging at the rate of his own consumption, stretching, pulling, and breaking. There's going to be no escaping this for me. I can't see anything, but I know he's eating the cop, and I'm stuck in this bath while that thing gorges itself outside my door. And when he's done, he's going to come in and gorge himself on me. Oh God, please let me die first. It feels like an eternity, and when the slobbering and snapping finally stop, the water has gone cold. There are a few seconds of silence, and then he re-enters, and I see that he is completely clean. He should be covered in gore. Maybe he didn't eat them. But then I glimpsed at the stain on my floor just before he shuts it. There's no carpet for that mess to sink into. It's just a puddle, formerly known as a man. Is that a joke? I think I'm going insane, but that's the truth of it, isn't it? Moments ago, there was 250 pounds of crooked-nosed policeman walking around, but now he's just calorific content. Was he eaten whole? Was his body collapsed, crunched, compressed, and forced into the man's gullet? I look at him standing there. His head is turned. He's watching me again. Should I start washing myself? Is that what he wants? He looks so normal, and I find that most upsetting. There's no bulging or sagging waist. I don't understand. I don't understand any of it. The man sees me staring and gives me a quick smile before patting his stomach again. This whole situation is too much for me, and I pass out. When I awoke, I was on my sofa. I'm lying down, and I'm dry and dressed. They're the same clothes I wore earlier, and my hair is still wet. I feel violated at the thought of him touching me. Somewhere behind me he is moving, but I'm afraid to turn and look in case it draws his attention. I hear the sound of plates, and I think he must be in the kitchen. Who cares? My door is just a few feet away, and I think I can make it, so I begin to move my leg. There might be a chance that I'll be able to slip out without him noticing now. "Come eat," he says, and I freeze before one foot is even on the ground. I twist my head around in fear, and he's staring at me, head tilted as if he's listening to the sound of my racing heart. His face is so neutral, he looks stupid, and I wonder if there's even a brain in that head, or whether it's hiding just out of view. I can almost imagine puppet strings rising into the rafters. "Come," he repeats himself, and somehow he laces the words with a kind of poison that curdles my stomach and causes acid to rise up into my throat. Without really realizing it, I stand up and enter the kitchen. The table has been laid out for a single person, and he beckons for me to sit at my place. I comply, pulling the chair in while he sits across from me. "I like you," he says, and I'm struck once more by just how cold and disinterested his tone is. He doesn't say it as a consolation or as a point of pride, but rather it's just a novelty, like he's observed an unusual sign on the road. "You will eat now," he says. Eat what? I wonder. There's nothing on my plate. I expect him to explain, to say something, but he stares at me for long seconds in complete silence. When he does finally open his mouth, no sound ever comes out. Instead, it keeps growing like a rubber prosthetic until something bulges against his lips. I'm so terrified I shut my eyes without thinking, wrenching them open only when I hear a loud tear and something large explodes from his mouth onto the table in a clattering gore and acid. It comes to a stop on my plate, and by the time I look up from the dismembered torso sizzling on my tablecloth, I see that the man's face has returned to normal. "Eat," he says. "I can't," I mutter hopelessly. "You can't fly or regrow lost limbs or walk on the sun," he says, "but you can eat." He waits a little while I look down at the dimpled, lesion-riddled torso, bones and organs visible through tissue-thin skin. "Don't make me demonstrate this fact to you," he adds. "You can eat." I want to disassociate my mind right now. I want to have another out-of-body experience and imagine someone else doing these things. I don't want to know what I'm capable of. I don't want to have to do this, not step by step. I want to hide, to retreat deep within my subconscious. Even as he reaches outwards and sinks his fingers into the soft belly to pull a free strip of flesh, I keep waiting for my mind to go somewhere else, anywhere else. "Eat," he says, perfectly calm, giving me the slither of flesh, a flick to catch my eye. "You're boring me now," he says. When I look, I see something move behind him, and I realize it's his shadow, except it looks nothing like him at all. The mere outline suggests a kind of dimming madness, the firing neurons of a Dying brain as all color drains, time stops, and one by one the lights turn off. He reaches out and grabs my wrist, and his skin is like soft coral. He puts something in my fist and then lets go before sitting back. I know what he wants me to do, I'm just not sure I actually can do it. I open my hand and stare at it. It doesn't even look human. It looks like rotting awful and smells like it too. Like something cut open from the belly of a predator. Eat, he repeats himself, and I realize it's going to be for the last time. I don't want to die. I open my mouth and throw the scrap of skin and muscle in, and I swallow it, whole, only for it to immediately come back up and slither across my tongue. It tastes like battery acid with a rotting flourish, and it hits the cloth without a noise, quickly followed by a stringy river of bile. When it finally ends, I bring my teary eyes up to focus on his face, and he looks sad, almost disappointed. I'm bored, he says. Something then snaps. The knife he's placed beside me is long and serrated, and it's in my hand before I even realize I've made the decision. Now I've finally disassociated. Now I'm watching someone else step into my shoes and take over. And this woman, she takes the blade and drags it against his wrist with such savage strength I could almost cheer. Fuck you, she screams. Then I scream. How's this for boring? I'm sobbing as I say the words, but the sound of defiance in my voice pleases me, and it doesn't stop there. I'm up and running before I see the outcome. I've never felt as fast as I do right now. I've never felt my heart beat like this or felt my muscles burn with such savage purpose. I hope to God my body understands what's at stake right now because I can't afford to hold anything back. I'm only a few steps away from the front door now, and I've put all my hopes on this one gamble. That door needs to be open. The room then darkens. Something has cast a shadow across the doorway, and I already know that I'm going to die now. I feel like time is slowing, like any second. There's a loud knocking, and I slam into the door with a thump, surprised that I've made it. Hello, someone says from the other side, and the shadow flitters away, letting light fall across my back. I'm hyperventilating, my skin ice cold, and my entire scalp feels so tight like a rubber band ready to pop right off. Are you there? Please let me in. I heard about what happened at work today, and I don't think you should be alone. Are you okay? I can see you up against the door, the voice said. I throw the door open as fast as I can and fall forward into my sister's arms, into safety, or at least I hope it's safe. Once outside, I find myself saying that it'll be okay now, that everything is safe and well. Her cardigan is pressed into my face, and I'm holding my sister so tightly it hurts. I never want to open my eyes again, but I know better than that, so I pull away and start hobbling down the garden path while she's still asking 1,000 questions. My mind is sluggish, and it takes time to realize she won't stop asking until I reply. We need to leave, I say. What's wrong? She asks. Oh my God, what happened? Is everything okay? I grab her wrist and start pulling, but manage to walk only a few steps before I skid to a stop, and my sister runs right into the back of me. I steady her by gripping her elbows so hard that my knuckles turn white, but she doesn't cry out. We were both completely silent in the face of such all-consuming darkness. My garden and the path that leads from it are never as pitch black as they are right now. The only light comes from my house, and it fades quickly in the face of such malignant shadow. What little wind there is reeks of meat and fills my nose with the coppery stench of blood, hot and damp against my shivering skin. What the fuck is going on? My sister whispers, her voice a papery scrawl. There is something at the end of the gate, and it is eating like a black hole, and yet I feel like I recognize it. I feel like the sun has swiveled around to reveal a great big eye that's bearing down on me with scornful contempt. The weight of it is enough to crush my soul, and my sister feels it too. Her face is startled like a rabbit's, devoid of any rationality. An empty vessel slowly filling with the ancient impulse to freeze or flee. She chooses the latter without any warning, and I'm screaming after her as she bolts into the night. For a few seconds, there's only the sound of footsteps, followed by a startled yelp. I can't see her. I can't see her anywhere. It's like the sky opened up and ate her. But now the way is clear, and I take it. Sprinting as hard as I can for the gate, I am soon out onto the main road, suddenly aware that no one is out in this weather. The street lamps are trying to fight back the darkness, but failing. They can only make the lonely little islands I dart between in panic. I keep thinking of something lurking in ambush in the spaces between each light, and without realizing it, I'm holding my breath and closing my eyes. I'm barefoot, and I think my foot soles are bleeding. I can't be sure. They're so cold I can't feel a thing, and it's too dark to see. There's only pain and it's too much to bear. Not just my feet, all of it. It's too much and I have to stop. Up comes a wall and I practically fall against it in exhaustion. Where am I? I vaguely recognize the street, but it looks different in the dark. Maybe he's gone. Surely he would have caught me by now. Maybe he doesn't know where I am. Maybe I've gone too far. I dare myself to turn around to look behind me, and I do, seeing only an empty road. My own house is nowhere in sight, and I've never been so happy to be lost. There's nothing but a dozen streetlights lined up like ever-diminishing soldiers, and then the furthest of them goes out. It's accompanied by a loud pop and the sound of shattering glass, another burst and then another. One by one the islands of light disappear and I feel him coming. It's not just something that slithers through my mind. It is a raw physical sensation that pulls at my skin and turns my muscles to jelly. It is enough to motivate me to move, and I look towards the nearest house and hobble towards the door, grateful for the sight of bright lights in the windows. Is that a woman? I hit the door so hard my fists sting, but I don't stop until the door opens and I nearly plant one right on the old man's face. His wife is behind him, terrified, and I barge forward sobbing. The man looked threatened. I think he's still in survival mode. Is that a bat? But the woman has locked eyes on the state of me, and there's a softening in her eyes. I'm babbling and they're listening. They lock the door at my suggestion and immediately take me to the living room while the woman runs into the kitchen to phone the police. I want to take in my surroundings, but all I notice are the back and front doors, thinking that if he comes through one, I can flee the other. But what then? I can't just keep running. Drink this, the old woman says, and she arrives with a glass of water and I take it, surprised to find I actually want it when I gulp it down in one go. I must have been really thirsty. The woman speaks again and I jump. I look at her blankly and she repeats herself. The police are on their way, dear. What did you say happened? A man attacked you? Killed your sister? She said. Is the old man got a bat? No, it's a cane. He's just holding it like a bat. It makes me uncomfortable to think of what will happen if he has to try and use it. God, they don't really know what's out there, do they? No one does. And they'll never believe me. They'll think I'm all fucking crazy. And they'll never believe me. I answer them as best I can anyway, struggling to meet their eyes when I do. I don't want to deal with this feeling. It's like shame. Like if anything were to happen, it'd be my fault. But it would, wouldn't it? In a sense, at least, that makes me feel like shit. Outside, something shatters and I'm up in an instant, running towards the back door while the old couple call after me. They're terrified too, but right now I don't care. I have my hand on the back door, but my body freezes when a knock comes from the door. It's loud. The thumps spaced a little too far apart. An ersatz knock for an ersatz man. Hello, police. Let me enter, a voice says. And it works. The old man shouts something to me and turns towards the door. He told me it'll be alright, I think. I don't know. I'm too busy trying to handle myself and coping with the realization that it's locked. Where's the key? I howl, my voice like a banshee. I think the old woman answers, but it's just a platitude. Right now, her husband's at the door and pulling the chain. I don't have time to find the key, but the stairs are between me and the entrance, so I sprint towards them and flee into the unlit upper floor. My feet greet the last step, and I'm out of view just in time to hear the door open. I stop running now and start tiptoeing my way to a nearby door. From downstairs, I hear the old man's greetings cut short. After that, there are no sounds, and I hurry to the nearest bedroom, looking for a place to hide. I don't think this is the master room. There's a small table with a sewing machine, old exercise equipment covered in white sheets, and a double bed filled to the brim with tiny cushions. I'm reminded of the couple downstairs. I almost feel sick at the thought of the old man swinging his cane as that thing descends on him and his wife, but I make for a large treadmill folded up in the corner of the room anyway, hoping to hide. It's big enough to hide me, and I slide under the sheet without making much noticeable difference, I think. I hold my breath and will myself into total stillness, my chest close to bursting. Once again, I think that I can't keep doing this. Sooner or later, I'll have to give in. He's not going to stop following me. Even now, I can hear footsteps rising on the stairs, and my body vibrates with a tension I don't think I can contain for much longer. But I do not make a noise, not even when the door glides open. I can feel him looking at me right through the cover at my back, and I feel utterly pathetic, like a child. Who am I fooling? I'm so close to throwing the sheet up and giving in when I hear him walk out. I know I didn't imagine it. The door really did swing shut, but I hold my breath and keep still. How much longer should I wait? It feels too long. What if he completely left the house and I just didn't hear him? The sound of my heartbeat is like a thunderous drumming. I could have easily missed it. I decide to leave my hiding spot and look outside the nearby window. I move as silently as I can, shuffling along on all fours, my way lit only by moonlight. The worst thing that could happen now is a loose floorboard, but I don't dwell on that. A quick peek out the window shows a man walking past the house. I wonder if it's him, but I can't be sure. There hasn't been a peep out of the ground floor for a long time, but I do pick up the faintest hint of a draft. Chances are the front door is left open. Oh God, I hope the old couple are okay, but I know they're probably not. That was probably him spotted after he left, finally full after tearing his way through my life and eating every poor bastard along the way. I can't even bring myself to think of my sister, but for a moment, the grief mingles with terror and I slide back down to the floor, all relief tempered by the memory of the price I paid for a few measly hours of life. I can't stay here, but I decide that if I leave, I'll do it so quickly that even if he is lingering in the darkness, there's a chance I'll be able to sprint past him and escape. If he has finally left, then there's nothing to it. I can just keep running until I find another house, another safe place. I prepare myself, moving towards the door, and make sure to take deep breaths so my lungs are ready for the exertion. Before any doubt sets in, I crawl out quietly and approach the stairs. I can't hear anything, but I can't see anything either. All I have to do now is get down the stairs and out the front door. It's not too far at all. I explode into action like a runner at the tracks, throwing myself down the steps, 2, 3 at a time. I feel the energy rise up inside me, and for a few fleeting moments the door looms ahead like the gates of heaven. But to my right, in the darkness, something shuffles and catches my eye. There are only 5 or 6 steps left. I'm already halfway, but I turn my head and lose my balance. One ankle twists, the other misses its mark and slides down the remaining steps heels first. By the time I reach the bottom, I have deflated, unable to rise or respond. I can't move my eyes. He's standing there, his jaw dislocated and his eyes hollow, looking more like a rubber suit than ever before. The woman is trapped between his leech-like jaws, folded painfully between thick sheets of muscle that drip yellow fluid down her face. Her skin bleeds upon contact, 1,000 pinprick stars of blood blooming from her pores. Her ankles are by her neck, her soles are facing in opposite directions. I don't understand how, but she's still alive, and I'm reminded once again of a dying animal caught in the thralls of shock. She can't even look at me. She just stares into empty space, and while the man's body heaves and powerful muscles compress her body with audible cracks. There is a shudder of movement, and she is pulled further inwards, his lips curling around her head like a hood with a string on. She's trying to wiggle at her feet now, her eyes fluttering side to side while her mouth gapes open in terror. When it's over, she slips into his abdomen with a final gasp of air, and I let out a terrible sob. He stands there for a few seconds more, shivering with excitement, until his eyes finally roll back into their sockets from some impossible space in his head. I have given up trying to understand him, but I'm beginning to suspect he's bigger on the inside than the outside, and that there's enough room in there for me and others to spare. He offers a thin-lipped smile before turning to open the door. He's very thoughtful. "This is a very strange place," he says, possibly to me, but maybe to no one in particular. "No one will eat with me. But yet you all eat with each other. I see it. But yet no one will eat with me." He sounds almost sad. "Have it your way then. I'll continue to eat alone, and then I will leave." He walks towards the door but stops, and I realize I feel nothing. No relief or excitement or dawning terror. I can't quite bring myself to believe this night will end in anything other than abject horror. "Oh yes," he adds like an afterthought while turning to face me. "Here it comes, I think, my death. You can have your sister back," he says. It takes them 3 days to stabilize her, and I'm there with her the whole time. Sometimes I wonder if he returned the right person. I imagine that it's likely he can't tell us apart, or if he can, he doesn't care. But then I sometimes catch a light of reflection in her eyes that convinces me this is my sister, even if her skeleton has been reduced to 2/3 its original height, every hair singed off and her skin thinned to a translucent sheet. She hasn't spoken a word. The police have questions, but I have no answers. At least they let me visit her. I love her, even if I never liked her. Besides, no one has ever deserved a fate like this. They say they will be able to graft most of her lost skin, but they are baffled as to the full extent of what happened. And so am I tell them. She is diminished in every sense of the word, and as far as the neurologist can tell, her brain is riddled with lesions the size of diamonds. You can tell when she looks at you that there's nothing but a patchwork web of thoughts and memories trying but failing to fire. I have worked with dementia patients who share the exact same look, but nothing quite compares to the sight of her bones sagging in her flesh. They had a word for it, but I don't remember. All it really means is that her skeleton is as soft as cardboard, seemingly dissolved from within and leached of all calcium. If you lift her elbow, the forearm bends like a plastic ruler. She should be dead, they say, and I agree, often dreaming of working up the courage to walk in here and finish the job. When she looks at me, I think that's what she's asking for, but I can't say for sure, because sometimes all I see is a broken and battered doll with a misshapen and swollen head, like something you'd find at the bottom of a dumpster. I can't read that sort of face. She's crossed some threshold I hope to stay far away from. But I still visit. Guilt is a powerful thing, and it's one of the few genuine emotions I can feel, that and exhaustion. When I manage to sleep, I dream of the ocean, and he's always there. Somehow he's always in my dreams, and aware of me from an incalculable distance. I don't think I'll ever feel safe again in my life, not until him and I meet again.